Had some news about Last of Us 3, possibly. So we got Last of Us 3 story outline has been written, says Neil Druckman. This is Liam Croft at PushSquare.com. Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckman has confirmed during an episode of the Script Apart podcast that he and co-writer Haley Gross have completed work on a story outline to a sequel to The Last of Us Part 2. When asked about the possibility of a follow-up to Ellie and Abby's journey through Seattle and beyond, Druckman explained, "I don't know how much I want to reveal. Co-writer Haley Gross and I did write an outline for a story that we're not making, but I hope one day we can see the light of day. That explores a little bit of what happens after this game. We'll see." So this kind of blew up online. I guess I never really thought about Last of Us 3, or put it out of my mind, but as this kind of comes to light, there's aspects of it that I think could be dope if they do revisit it and continue the story along. But how do you feel about them having this script, or having a concept really that they're kicking around and them going back into The Last of Us?
Yeah, I think weirdly, what I'd like to see is what happens with Abby and I can't remember the name of the kid in it.
Liv or
Lev or Liv or something like that. Yeah, I'd like to see what happens to them when they go off on the boat, and obviously they're in search of those fireflies. I think that could be quite an interesting story. I just, the weird thing is, I love the first Last of Us so much. I love the second one as well, but I just feel like Ellie's just her story's done now, I think. But I'd still love to see what happens with Abby and everything. But I'm not sure why those two characters' paths would cross again. I don't know. I think no matter how that would happen, I think it would just feel forced unless they can think of like a really clever way to make them meet up again. But yeah, if it was just about Abby and Lev, then I'd be completely on board with that. I think, again, similar to Insomniac, whatever comes out of Naughty Dog will be great. So you can't be disappointed with anything really that any ideas they have or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I'd definitely be up for playing it. I'm sure it'll probably batter me like the second one did and make me feel really strange for weeks on end after completing it. But yeah, it'd be cool to see more of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking just like thematically, because, and someone else had posted up online where the second one is so heavy and so dark that the third one isn't going to be lighter and happy and funny, but like maybe it's a shift in tone would have to kind of be for the third one, because they've just be getting darker and darker. If not like a full-blown shift in tone, maybe something where these two characters combine to actually like work together, and you see that progression in their relationship where they actually become friends or lean on each other for some kind of situation that happens. I feel like that could be really dope to put them together and have them grow that connection as just a way to juxtapose like the second one and how you had them at opposites. But I feel like it's going to be their stories together. And Ellie's such a huge character, I don't think they'd leave her behind. So somehow they'd have to like interact and be part of that story. And I would guess together. But there's a lot they leave at the end of Last of Us 2 that a lot of unanswered questions, rather, with Ellie and her girlfriend. I forget her name. Why am I blanking on that? But what happens with their connection, their relationship, and does she go and, I guess I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but like, do they try to can bring that connection back? Is it just about Abby and Ellie? How does that work? Or just about Abby and Lev? I think it's Lev or something like that. Yeah. But either way, yeah, I'm just like you. I'm on board. I think there's a lot they could mine there with the story and still connect these characters to it. I don't think they necessarily have to like bring new characters in. But either way, it's going to be a good 7-8 years before we see anything like this, come out of it. Probably the end of the PS5 generation. But once I saw this, the gear started turning. It's like, I'd actually love to see Dina. There we go, Turdman. Thank you. I'd love to see them go back to this story and maybe like a final cap off, of actual like conclusive end to the Last of Us storyline. All right, Callum, there's a little bit left on that interview with Neil Druckman on that podcast. So he explains why the Last of Us movie fell apart. The movie adaptation of The Last of Us fell apart because there was too much focus on big action set pieces that did not suit the story, according to game director Neil Druckman. Talking to the Script Apart podcast, Druckman said, "When I worked on the movie version, a lot of the thinking and notes were like, how do we make it bigger? How do we make the set pieces bigger? Druckman did not point fingers as to who in the studio system provided these notes, but he said that the approach was responsible for the film's downfall. It didn't work for The Last of Us, and I think that's ultimately why the movie wasn't made, he said. And of course, now we have the HBO series that's taken off and following the actual game directly. But at one point, they're floating around the idea of an actual movie version of The Last of Us, which I think is a good move to not do that. But how do you feel about them? Why this movie possibly fell apart with The Last of Us and trying to make it actiony?
Yeah, I think good on him to sort of stand up for his own story and not allow sort of big movie studios to just put all their explosions all over it. And it also, I think, bodes well for the series because it shows that he's obviously not allowing these sort of tropes and things to enter this sort of adaptation of The Last of Us. So it shows that the series should probably be pretty close to the kind of vibe that we already sort of get from the game, and I think that's the most important thing with these kind of things.
Yeah, and the idea of I imagine the studio giving him this pushback where it's like everything needs to explode, and we need to have these huge scale set pieces, and really thinking of like how the trailer's going to look, kind of thing. But that doesn't really work for The Last of Us. I know he explained like when they are actually thinking of the theme or the direction for the original game, they're almost making like an indie movie kind of version of how this would play out. So the idea of having, Transformers involved or somehow Fast and Furious, influences with like Last of Us. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare and it would be a disaster. So I think it's a great idea to do the shift they did where they're going to more serious episodic, content with HBO where they can really drag stuff out and take their time. And I think that was a great decision.
But you've now made me really interested in the Transformers Last of Us crossover because Transformers just like come from like a different planet, don't they? So what if they came to Earth whilst this apocalypse was happening? That'd be good, actually.
I like where head's going.
Why did Neil Druckman not want?
Exactly, yeah. And if you somehow get that mushroom virus infects the Transformers and they're this weird twisted version, like, dude, that could be dope. Maybe actually they should go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
They got something there.